You don't want to be the one that isn't doing well. Especially if you're usually the stable one. You build up a certain sense of pride that'll just work itself out. And you can't necessarily express or put your finger on how you're feeling, you're just feeling nothing. A passenger. Like the world is happening around you and you're on autopilot. Stimuli in the form of conversations come and you try your best to respond well, but you can't be funny, interesting or charming. You just come off as obvious, predictable, ignorant or moody. You can't enjoy a movie or creatively think or read or have the motivation to exercise. You can't enjoy anything except for food. Food can help eat up some time which would normally go by slower than an elephant with a sprained ankle. Not to mention other alternatives like drugs, cigarettes and alcohol, which of course in time would make this a whole lot worse and harder to deal with. But in those moments, they're the only thing that can get you through those hopeless, empty moments. You may have relied your happiness too much upon the shoulders of one person and you feel guilty for putting too much pressure on them. So you don't say anything. Or you preempt the reaction of a loved one and you know that it'll just make things worse because they'll overreact and make it more official. As right now, it's just something that you're dealing with inside your mind. And once you tell someone, it's out there in the form of a idea, a concept, a matter of fact that you're struggling to cope. And people need to adjust to this revelation. And this will induce the most frightening thing of all, fuss. And you don't want any fuss. You don't want to talk things through. You don't want to go through the whole rigorous rigmarole of going to see a GP and trying to explain and get pills thrown at you or suggestions, mindless suggestions like go for a run, do something creative, eat more healthily, talk to someone, a stranger, or better still, a group of other sad, miserable bastards like you. Oh yes, please. You don't want to do anything. You can't do anything. Everything's gone. You can't get out of bed to scratch your arse, never mind talk it through with a group of strangers in an old bingo hall. So you don't say anything. And you wait for it all to work itself out. And you're mindful of all this. So when you are around people, you find you're able to fake it better and do things that suggest you're doing just fine. Until it gets worse. And you're falling. Wishing you had just said something. So you must say something. It might be shit, but it's your only hope. But what can anyone do? How can anyone help mental health? They can't really. Can't do much. We have to look after ourselves after all. But there is something we can do to make people feel a little less alone. What about being a decent person? What about, instead of retweeting about mental health awareness once a year when everyone else is, just have it in your mind to be a decent, kind person all year round? Don't leave people out of the conversation. Don't be negative to others, implicitly or explicitly. It spreads more than any virus. Don't bitch. Don't talk shit about people. Don't paint a picture of a sanctimonious virtue signalling saint online and not back it up in real life. You don't do it when the camera isn't on. If you did, you wouldn't feel the need to go on about it so much. Do it without telling people about it. Then I'll like you. I'll slap a big love heart on your forehead if it makes you feel better. Ask if someone is okay, but mean it. Don't just ask for the sake of asking just because it makes you feel better about yourself. Maybe ask twice just to reassure them that you actually care. You're there if they feel like talking, and it won't just be about how depressed they are, it'll be about anything else. That person that you don't hear much of since this, since that, make an extra effort to include them. Include as many people as you can, instead of being so elitist in your little cliques. Don't leave people out. Invite that person that maybe hasn't got many friends and is going through something in their mind that's telling them that they're not good enough for people, so they push people away, or they're convincing themselves that they don't need others because it's easier to cope with loneliness that way. They might say no, they might not feel up to it, or they might just want to be alone at that moment. But it takes about 16 seconds to invite someone out, and the positive impact it creates is insurmountable. They won't be any trouble. They may be a bit quiet, or you may not think they're even having a good time, but just trust that they appreciate being there so much. And as long as you treat them with a generous spirit, take someone messaging you to meet up or asking if people are available to go out with more reverence, understanding that it means more to that person to meet up than you could possibly imagine, or it means more to them than they let on. Depressed people don't want to be treated like a depressed person. It's depressing. It's not hard to be decent and be that person. Others will be that person for you should you need them. Don't do it just to put online for a like. Do it for a life. The good feeling will last much longer. People think they're worthless. Give them some worth without declaring your own.